This is Ashton Marcus, and I'm on location at the Grand Annex in San Pedro for the House of Bards production of George Orwell's 1984. Hi, this is Ashton Marcus with Broadway World, and I'm here with
Roberto Williams. I've been a stage actor for about 5 years, mostly like Shakespeare. So this is usually a change of pace for me, but I mean, Shakespeare's given me a lot of like good work with diction and language and text, and with something like this, it's really a daunting role because it's a classic, but Shakespeare prepped me for that too.
Great, and which character did you play tonight?
Winston Smith. In the novel especially, he's an incredibly flawed character. He's got a lot of very gray morals. He's got a lot of awful impulses that spurn from this terrible society that he grows up in. But like towards the end, he finds that like there's what Orwell calls the spirit of man is worth fighting for. That thing of like, that like we live in a pluralist world of individuals who like have their own lives, and that is something that needs to be cherished and fought for. I found a bit more of my pitch with it being because he's a much older character. He's about 40, and I'm 26. And initially we tried going the older route, but I found that the energy flowed better when I just tried it in my way, where there's a bit of a rebel in a lot of people my age right now, so especially in the world right now, so I just found a bit of that juvenile spirit, that like the little rebellious spirit against the elders, and just threw a bit of that into it.
Some people might say, well, I mean, I don't want to thought police this, but his strength was his weakness. He was brave, but he was actually a coward too. You know what I mean?
He definitely is a coward, but I think that's what makes him such a compelling protagonist, is that he despite all of his fears, despite his innate cowardice, he's the one who decides that no, I'm going to go into this fight and I'm going into death. He knows that he's going to die at the end of this without any results. And I think that does show a lot of bravery in spite of him being such a coward.
If my viewers decide to come on to see this piece, what should they expect to see?
I hope they have a strong stomach, especially for the final scene. Everything up until that, it's like I just expect them to see. It's a different version from the novel. There's definitely a lot of plot points that differ, and a lot of characteristics that differ from the novel, but the general spirit of it is definitely there. And the ending, we tried our best to make it as honest to Orwell's source material as we could.
I loved your performance because, in a sense, there's very little on stage. You have to somehow portray paranoia. I mean, how do you portray paranoia? But I could feel that it was palpable, and also you have to portray an aura out there of being oppressed by society. I mean, we live in a free society. We're Americans. There was just an election that we had, but still, I could feel that basically you were almost like in Russia or something like that.
I mean, like, I'm definitely a privileged individual, even like in the world that we live in. Like, even by our standards, I'm a privileged individual. This fiction, it was like we all got assigned to read the books. I've been listening to the audiobook because it works best for my job to listen to it, and so I'm right now I'm in the middle of listening to it for the second time, and just the way that Orwell puts into words a lot of the things that can't be verbalized in the script, just hearing his rhetoric through that, and like how he really dives into the intricacies of that society, of that oppression, really helps fuel this. But also living in a world now where alternative facts have been established, it's very easy to find a bit of like a frustration of recognizing that there is such a thing as an objective truth, and when it's being denied again and again and again, that frustration does help fuel a performance like this.
I agree with you. There is a bit, because there's like fake news and all that, but more than that, it's like sometimes on the left you hear them trying to thought police you. Sometimes on the right you hear them thought policing you too. So it's like you pick your poison. It's like, I support you, but don't say, let the other guy have an opinion too. I mean, you might not like it. You might think he's a racist. You might think he's a MAGA. You might think that he is a Nazi, but I'm sorry, he's still allowed his own thoughts.
Yeah, it's just, one of the most compelling things about this is that there are plenty of ideologies that like not only just disagree with, there are some that I just absolutely fight against and detest. But recognizing that there are people who, like, you know, they own their own mind, they own their own life, and the best that we can do is to try to have a discourse about these ideologies rather than pretend like they don't exist or they are inhuman because of them. And also, there's one thing that Orwell describes in this book is orthodoxy, which is the sense of, like, you know, you stick or you stay to the line. When you're orthodox, you stay on the line. You abide by the party rules. You're a straight arrow. And anyone who's unorthodox by ideology or even by there's no mention of, like, people with disabilities. Anyone who has, like, a nervous tic, anyone who is neurodivergent in any way, they're wiped out immediately. If you're unorthodox, then you don't fit, and that's something that is very harrowing, because it's a pluralist world, it's a pluralist race, the human race, and that's something that needs to be cherished.
Normally, my favorite actors are the villains. I love villains because the good guy is usually pretty boring. He's just a good guy. You know he's going to win at the end. And in Broadway World, they only really allowed me to choose one actor to interview. But I chose you to basically... I really liked your performance because it wasn't just some guy, some nice guy out there succeeding at the end. It was a guy being broken. It was a guy at the end who, even though it was a strange ending, you might not say it was a happy ending, but I really liked the way you performed it.
Thank you so much. I was talking with some friends yesterday where they asked me what my favorite part of the play was. And my favorite, I pinpointed it, that my favorite part was at the end when I have my monologue about they always shoot you in the back of the head and I'll know when it's coming. I'll play everything safe, I'll think right, I'll dream right. And then I'll hate them as the bullet is on its way to my brain when it's too late to call it back. And that's this moment of, he strives for this victory that is meaningless, essentially. It doesn't do anything to further the cause, but it's him recognizing this is the only victory he can get, is owning his own life, his own feelings, his own self, his own life, and that is, like, the most precious thing to anybody outside of politics, outside of any other concept that is brought up, outside of truth. It's just who you are, your essence, and he clings to that. And essentially, he loses it, which is so heartbreaking. But he's content. He's won the victory over himself, as Orwell puts it. And it's happy for him, but is it a happy ending? It's very, very tragic, I think.
Once again, I love your performance. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
George Orwell's 1984 will be playing at the Grand Annex in San Pedro from November 17th to December 3rd. For more information, go to www.houseofbards.org.